Hello and welcome. Thanks for stopping by. I sure appreciate it. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and click that notification bell so you know when my next video is. Today we're making this fun fall-inspired card using some products from Kat Scrappiness and also Lindy's Magicals. We're going to use 3 die sets from Kat Scrappiness, Stitched Foliage, the A2 reverse scallop frame, and a thanks die. We're also going to use 3 colors from the Nantucket Pearls of Lindy's Magicals, and we're going to use the colors Cape Cod Coral, Seagrass Green, and Well Watch Blue. We're going to start with a piece of distressed watercolor paper. That's my go-to watercolor paper. It has a smooth side and a more textured side. We're going to use the more smooth side today to create our background panel. We are also going to use a fan brush to apply our powders and a distress sprayer. So we're going to start by opening our magical powders, and I haven't opened these before, so I'm carefully removing the inside packaging. I'm being careful to keep my lids with the proper container so that I have the right color next time I go to use those. This powder is really fine. It spreads very quickly, so keep that in mind. I'm going to pick up some of the powder with the fan brush, and I'm just going to lightly actually apply it to the watercolor cardstock, just because these are pretty light and pretty pale, and I actually want a little bit darker of a background panel, so I'm going to start with just a layer directly on the cardstock. Then this is how I usually use them. I pick them up with the fan brush and I just tap them onto the panel, and I just tap them all over using all 3 of the colors that I have chosen. I do wipe off my fan brush in between. I'm just going to move my powders out of the way because I'm going to spray, and these are water reactive, so I definitely don't want to spray in the container because that would ruin the entire container of powder. So although this is really pretty and would make a beautiful background panel, I want it to be a little darker. So I'm going to add some more pigment, and this time I'm just tapping it on over the cardstock. I don't want to put my brush directly into the water and then put it back in my container because that would ruin some of my powder. So, and since there's water already on the cardstock, the powder already starts to react when you tap it on there, so you can kind of see where you're working at a little better. So put some more water on there and to get those powders to react. And I have quite a mess here, so I'm just going to kind of dab up a little bit with my with a paper towel, and you can also run that paper towel around the edge of your cardstock and pick up any pigments that are pooling there. And so I'm adding my last little bit of powder here, and then I'm going to start to heat set it, and I'm just drying it because I need it dry. So as I'm starting to dry, I notice that I still have some little bits of powder pigment that haven't reacted yet. So I'm just tapping my finger in a little bit of water and putting it right on that powder to make it react. And so I'm just going to dry this panel, and I want it dry because I'm going to be doing some die cutting with it. So just getting it nice heat set. I like where it's at, so I'm going to stop now. You could keep going, layering it, pigment, water, but I'm happy where it's at, so I'm going to put everything away. I have done all of this on my Tonic Studios glass media mat. It is what I use for my wet and inky techniques. It's just super easy to clean, but it does have quite the glare. So I cleaned that up and removed it. Just going to finish drying my panel here. Watercolor paper tends to hold a lot of moisture. hence why it's called watercolor paper, and we use it for those techniques. So this takes quite a while to dry. Normally I would just set it aside, come back a few hours later or even overnight before I die cut the panel, but I needed to finish the panel all in one sitting today, so I got it nice and dry. And I'm just going to now take my Stitch Foliage from Kat Scrappiness, and I'm going to use some Easy C tape, and I'm going to decide where I want them on my panel, and I'm just going to tape them down. This is such a fun little leaf set. I love that it has stitch detail on it. It gives it quite a bunch of character. And please excuse my cat in the background. She's decided to play with something that crinkles. And so getting these all where I want them, I'm going to take it over, run it through my Gemini Junior, and then going to bring it back. And I'm going to carefully pop out my images. Be really careful. These have really delicate little stems. They're beautiful, but they're delicate. So you don't want to tear those. So just gently remove those from the paper. And once I have those all removed, I am just going to put those aside for now and put my background panel aside as well. So now I'm going to start creating the base of a frame I'm going to make. So I'm going to use the Altenew Dotted Swirls Debossing Cover Die, just with a piece of heavyweight cardstock. I ran it through my die cut machine, and then I'm just going to set that aside for now. Now we're going to take the A2 reverse scallop and create our frame. I'm going to get, I want some dimension to my frame, so instead of using foam tape, I'm going to use 3 of the frames, and I'm going to stack those up. And I just take those middle pieces. They work great for sentiments or small die cuts that you have in the future. I just put mine in a little scrap drawer off to the side, and I have them right there whenever I want them. So once I have those 3 cut, I will grab my liquid adhesive, and I like the Barely Arts glue, and I'm going to grab that and I am going to glue my 3 frames together. So I use my acrylic blocks as paperweights, my big ones. Why? Because I'm not very good at stamping with my acrylic blocks. So when I use my liquid adhesive, I just put my acrylic blocks, 1 or 2 on there, to kind of just put some pressure on that glue so it starts to adhere. I don't leave it on there till it completely dries, but just till it starts to, it's got a good solid adhering going on. I'm not sure what that word is actually, but so gonna get that all put together, lined up, get that drying, and then I'm going to grab that Dotted Swirls panel that we just made, and I am going to trim that down just a little bit so it fits right underneath that frame. And I think I took off about 1/4 of an inch on 2 sides of that panel. I'm going to use some liquid adhesive and just glue my layered reverse scallop frame there to this Dotted Swirls panel. And this is going to actually be the base panel for our entire card. And sorry, I am fighting allergies, so sorry about that. They're getting the best of me this fall. So I'm going to put something heavy on this while it dries, and I'm going to put that aside. And then next we are going to make our sentiment. And so I'm going to use the Thanks die. It comes with 2 pieces. I'm only going to use 1 piece. I'm just using the word part of it. The shadow die I'm not using this time. And I'm going to pull out my mini blossom. It is a little workhorse. He sits right here on my desk, right within arm's reach, and I use him for all of my small little die cuts. So it works perfect for most of my word dies. Can run through there. Works perfect for when I'm cutting out sentiment strips with a sentiment strip die. So I love it. The little plates don't warp, and it's one of my most used tools. So I'm actually cutting 3 of the thanks, and I'm using some black cardstock. I keep all of my scraps of white, black, and grays in a scrap drawer together, so I'm not really sure where this is from. Probably Altenew, Hero Arts, or Spellbinders. So once I got those 3 all cut out, I am going to remove all the little tiny bits and pieces in between my words. I have a craft pick here that I use that for. And yes, I have those little bits and pieces all over. I'd like to say that I'm super tidy and throw that all in the garbage. I don't. They end up right underneath my feet, and I vacuum them up at the end of the day. So I'm just going to use some liquid adhesive to put these together. I just use some reverse tweezers to hold them. I find this the easiest. It keeps my hands out of the glue and allows me to line up my dies fairly easily. And I just put a little bit. I don't go too heavy with the glue. And going to line them up, and then I'm just going to move them around to where they're perfectly lined up, and then put my acrylic block on it while it dries. So next we're going to decide kind of where we want everything. And so right now I'm just kind of seeing, you know, I want my thanks down at the bottom, and I want my leaves kind of coming from it. So I'm happy. I'm going to start gluing. Now I chose just to glue the bottom portion of my leaves and left the top part of them unglued so that there's a little bit of movement to my leaves and a little bit of dimension. It's hard to see in the video or in pictures, but in real life, when you pick up that card, those little leaves almost flutter. I love it. So I'm just kind of tucking all my leaves. I use all 5 of them. And I'm tucking them so the stems are all hidden behind each other, and it looks like just a little bundle of leaves. And then once I have them all in place where I like them, I am going to glue down my thanks die. So I'll get that put in place, and then I put my acrylic block on it while that glue starts to set. And while that's setting, we'll put that aside, and then we are going to grab some embellishments. And I chose to grab some embellishments from Little Things excuse me, by Lucy's Cards, the Let's Harvest set. Beautiful gold, yellows, some clear sequins. They work beautifully for this card. It took me a little while to sort through, decide what I wanted to use and where I wanted it. This always seems to be the longest part of the project for me because I'm a little indecisive when it comes to this. And once I got them where I want them, I will grab some Ranger Multi-Matte adhesive and glue these in place. This is my go-to glue for embellishments. It dries nice and matte, so if some oozes out the side, you really can't see it. I'm going to put those extras away so I don't accidentally spill those and have to be picking those all up. And I'm going to glue this to a top folding card base. I get mine from Simon Says Stamp. They're the 120-pound card bases. This is a top folding card base. I love that they're pre-cut, pre-scored. All I have to do is fold them and put them in my drawer, and they're ready to use. So I had already glued my sequins on here, so I didn't want to move those by putting an acrylic block on, so you'll see me trying to hold that in place. But I did decide to put some glossy accents on the thanks, and I don't show it here, I lost some video footage, so I'm really sorry about that. But that is what I'm going to do with the glossy accents that's in my hand. You'll see it in the finished card here in just a minute. So I made several of these. I'm grabbing one that's all done. You can see the glossy accents on the thanks. That's what makes it all shiny. And you can see the powders shimmering on the leaves. I think this is just a cute, great fall card. I sure hope you enjoyed it. And thank you so much for stopping by. And I hope to see you again in my next video.